Welcome back to Leo's Daily English. Before we dive into today's lesson, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss our deep dive into mastering the English language.
Today, we're tackling a moment every English learner knows too well, that blinking cursor paralysis, where you're not sure if that deadline is in Friday, on Friday, or at Friday. It feels like a single tiny word is standing between you and hitting send.
Exactly. But instead of trying to memorize another dry grammar chart, we're going to introduce a powerful visual tool called the funnel metaphor. This approach is based on embodied cognition, which means using our brain's natural understanding of physical space to categorize the invisible concept of time.
It's a total game changer. We'll look at how time moves from a wide opening for big blocks like months down to a precise tip for exact hours. It turns English grammar from a memory test into simple spatial reasoning.
Let's jump into the discussion and see how this funnel can completely demystify in, on, and at.
So imagine you are sitting at your desk, right? You are typing out this really high-stakes email to your boss.
Oh, yeah, or like a critical new client. We have all been there.
Exactly. And you are wrapping up the message, feeling pretty confident about the whole thing.
Right.
And you type out, the final project proposal will be ready for review, and then suddenly your fingers just freeze over the keyboard.
Dreaded blinking cursor.
Yes. You are just staring at it. And you are thinking, wait, is it going to be ready on Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it ready on Friday? Or wait, is it at Friday?
It is always that one tiny word.
Right. A single tiny two-letter word is literally standing between you and hitting send.
I mean, in that moment, you realize that choosing the wrong one might make you look, well, slightly unprofessional.
Or at least like you just do not have a firm grasp on the details.
Right, so the panic sets in.
Totally.
Yeah.
You start running through these arbitrary grammar rules you might have like half memorized years ago.
Hoping the right answer just magically presents itself to you.
Exactly. And, that hesitation you are describing, that sudden paralysis over a seemingly insignificant word.
It actually points to a fundamental quirk in how our brains process language.
Wait, really? A quirk?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we try to recall linguistic structures from a textbook perspective, we are basically asking our minds to retrieve abstract syntax.
Like we are trying to access a giant spreadsheet in our heads.
Right. We're treating language like a math equation where x plus y equals z.
Oh, I see.
But human memory, particularly when we are under a bit of pressure to communicate spontaneously, is just notoriously bad at accessing rigid, abstract data tables.
We just aren't wired for it.
No, we really aren't.
Which is incredibly frustrating for you, the listener.
Oh, totally.
Whether you are actively learning English or even if you are just someone who occasionally trips over their own words.
Yeah, I mean, native speakers do this all the time too.
Right. Because we are looking at a linguistic landscape that often feels completely arbitrary.
It really does.
Like, why do we say we are meeting in October, but we are meeting on Tuesday?
It makes no logical sense on the surface.
Exactly. And the conventional approach is to just hand someone a chart and say, well, just memorize this.
Right. In goes with months, on goes with days.
But that doesn't explain anything. It just creates this massive cognitive overload.
You are trying to recall these disconnected rules while simultaneously trying to formulate a complex, spontaneous thought.
Which is practically impossible.
And that cognitive overload is exactly why we need to shift our perspective.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, instead of treating these prepositions as arbitrary mathematical variables to be memorized, we need to look at how native speakers actually conceptualize them.
And they do this completely subconsciously, right?
Exactly. They aren't thinking about grammar charts at all.
Which is perfect, because that brings us to our focus for today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
Today, our mission is to completely demystify this notoriously tricky part of English communication.
It is going to be a game changer.
We are going to look at how we choose the right time prepositions without relying on a single grammar chart.
Not one.
And we are using a really fascinating source today.
Yeah, it is a great piece of material.
It is an excerpt from a language learning resource that completely abandons the textbook approach.
Which is so refreshing.
Instead of a list of rules, it introduces one single, powerful visual metaphor for how we categorize time.
And shifting from a two-dimensional chart to a three-dimensional visual metaphor changes the entire architecture of how your brain stores this information.
It changes how you retrieve it, too.
Exactly. It moves the task completely out of the realm of abstract memorization
And puts it where?
into the realm of spatial reasoning.
Spatial reasoning. Okay, so it takes the abstract and makes it a physical object.
Yes, precisely.
Because look, learning a language or even just mastering the finer points of how we communicate is essentially like cracking a code.
It is a giant puzzle.
You are always looking for that underlying pattern, right? The hidden logic that native speakers just instinctively feel in their bones.
And today we have what might be the ultimate decoder ring for time prepositions.
Yes, the visual metaphor of the funnel.
A funnel. It is just such a brilliant mechanism to apply here.
Why a funnel, though?
Because the cognitive science behind why this specific shape works so well is actually quite profound. We are dealing with embodied cognition.
Okay, let me pause you right there.
Sure.
Because embodied cognition sounds like a really heavy academic concept.
I know, it sounds intense.
How does a simple kitchen tool like a funnel connect to the science of how we actually think?
Well, embodied cognition is essentially the idea that our thoughts, our language, and our understanding of abstract concepts are deeply rooted in our physical experiences of the world.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. Humans evolved as physical creatures navigating a physical three-dimensional space.
Right. We walk around, we bump into things.
Exactly. We inherently understand gravity. We understand boundaries.
We know what a wall is.
We understand what it means to put an object inside a container.
Oh, okay. I'm following.
We spent hundreds of thousands of years developing these complex neural pathways to process spatial relationships long before we ever invented formal grammar.
Wow. So we intuitively know how a physical object behaves just by looking at it.
Exactly.
Like if I drop a marble into a bowl, I know where it is going to go. It is going to roll to the bottom.
Right. You don't need to calculate the physics.
And if I pour water on a flat table, I know it is going to spill everywhere.
Precisely. We don't have to consciously think about those physics. Our brains just know them.
That makes total sense.
Now consider the concept of time.
Okay, time.
Time is entirely invisible.
Right, you can't touch it.
You cannot hold it. You cannot put it in a box. It is a pure abstraction.
So how does the human brain process something invisible?
It borrows the cognitive architecture it already built for the physical world.
No way. Really?
Yes. We map the invisible concept of time onto our deeply ingrained understanding of physical space.
That is fascinating. So we are essentially hacking our own evolutionary biology.
That is exactly what we are doing.
We use spatial words to talk about time because space is the only reference point our physical bodies actually understand.
It is why we use phrases like, looking forward to the weekend.
Oh, or like putting the past behind us.
Exactly. We are physically placing time on a spatial axis relative to our bodies.
The future is in front of us.
And the past is behind us.
But wait, let me challenge that for a second.
Go for it.
The way you just described time, past behind us, future in front of us, that sounds like a timeline.
It does.
And usually, especially in Western cultures, that is exactly how we visualize time. It is a straight, flat line moving horizontally from left to right.
Very true.
So why does our source material today suggest reshaping that linear timeline into a three-dimensional object?
That is the big question.
Yeah, why does a funnel change how we understand these three specific words, IN, RN, and AT?
That is the crucial distinction to make here. A timeline is an excellent tool for understanding chronological sequence.
Like history class.
Perfect for history. If you need to know that event A happened before event B, you use a timeline.
Right.
But a timeline is essentially one-dimensional. It only plots sequence.
Okay.
What a timeline is absolutely terrible at doing is helping you conceptualize volume or scale.
Wait, volume? We are talking about time having volume.
In the context of language, yes, absolutely.
That is wild.
Because the prepositions IN, ON, and AT, they do not care about historical sequence.
They don't.
No, they do not care if something happened in 1990 or 2050.
Oh, interesting.
Their grammatical function is entirely dependent on the size of the temporal container you are placing your event into.
The size of the container. Okay.
Are you dropping your deadline into a massive, sprawling container of time, or are you trying to fit it into a tiny, hyper-precise container?
Ah, I see. A flat line cannot show me how big October is compared to a Tuesday.
Exactly.
It just shows me that Tuesday is a tiny little notch on the line.
Right. But a funnel introduces this concept of volume and scale.
Because it is 3D.
It gives us a physical three-dimensional representation of changing capacity.
And we all know the physical properties of a funnel.
We do. It has a massive wide opening at the top.
Right.
And then the walls slope inward, steadily and deliberately narrowing down until it terminates at a very sharp, precise point at the bottom.
It is like when you are pouring oil into your car engine
Great example.
or trying to get coffee beans into a grinder.
Yeah.
You have this big, forgiving target at the top that captures everything.
It catches all the chaos.
Yeah. And it forces all of that material down into a tiny, exact exit point.
So when you take the abstract rules for IN, ON, and AT, and you map them onto the physical shape of this funnel.
You completely remove the need to memorize a textbook chart.
Exactly. You just have to mentally visualize the object.
You let the physical shape of the funnel dictate the grammatical rule.
It is so much easier for the brain to handle.
So if we establish this shape in our minds right now, for you listening, picture this wide top tapering down to a sharp tip.
Hold that image.
We can actually start taking our blocks of time and pouring them into the top of the funnel to see what happens.
Let's do it.
Let's really dig into how the source material breaks down this first phase of the metaphor.
The very top.
Right. The source focuses entirely on the very top of the funnel, which it calls the wide opening.
The wide opening. This is our entry point into the concept of temporal volume.
And the source explicitly links this vast, wide space at the top of the funnel to the preposition in.
Yes.
And it tells us that this specific part of the funnel is reserved for massive blocks of time. Specifically, it names weeks and months.
When we evaluate the cognitive psychology behind this, the correlation is incredibly elegant.
How sad.
Well, think about the nature of a week or a month.
Okay.
These are broad, highly unspecific measurements of time.
Very unspecific.
If we take a month, like October, we are talking about a massive block of existence.
It is 31 days.
It is over 700 hours. It is tens of thousands of minutes.
Wow, yeah.
Conceptually, a month is a sprawling, vast landscape of time.
It really is huge when you break it down like that mathematically.
It is a massive volume.
If I tell a friend, hey, let's get dinner in October, I am giving myself an enormous target to hit.
You really are.
I have an entire 31-day window where that statement remains completely true.
And because weeks and months are these vast, expansive containers, they logically require the widest part of our metaphorical funnel.
They need the space.
They require an opening that has the capacity to accommodate that sheer volume.
That makes perfect sense.
If you tried to mentally cram an entire month into the tiny, sharp tip of a funnel, it would create cognitive dissonance.
Right, it wouldn't fit.
Your brain instinctively knows that a massive volume cannot fit into a microscopic point. It would spill over. It makes no physical sense.
Right, you need a giant target for a giant block of time.
Exactly.
I like to think of this wide opening at the top of the funnel like a giant bucket.
A bucket is a perfect way to visualize it.
If you have a concept as big as a month or a year, you can just toss it into that giant bucket, and it has plenty of room to just slosh around.
It is completely inexact.
Yeah, the sloshing around is a perfect way to describe the linguistic function of the word in.
It really is. When you use in with a month or a week, you are establishing a boundary.
The outer edges of the bucket, so to speak.
Right. You are saying the event will not happen before the month begins, and it will not happen after the month ends.
But inside that boundary.
Inside that boundary, there is total freedom. There is a complete lack of specificity.
It allows for maximum ambiguity.
Absolutely.
Like if my boss asks when that project proposal is going to be finished and I say it will be done in November, I am intentionally using the widest part of the funnel.
You are buying time.
I am tossing that deadline into a massive bucket because I don't want to commit to a specific Tuesday at 9 a.m.
You're giving yourself a buffer.
Exactly.
You are utilizing what psychologists call psychological distance.
Psychological distance. I like that.
When an event is far away, or when we just want to keep our commitment loose, we conceptualize it abstractly. We use broad strokes.
And the wide opening of the funnel perfectly represents this psychological state.
It does. Furthermore, consider the physical sensation implied by the word NN.
The physical sensation.
Yeah. When you say something will happen in November, the spatial metaphor suggests you are physically enclosed by the time period.
Oh, I see.
You are wandering around inside the vastness of that month.
I am in the container of November. That makes a lot of sense.
You are surrounded by it.
The sheer size of the time period acts like a room or a landscape that I am occupying. There's space to breathe, space to move around. It feels comfortable and low pressure.
Exactly. But time, by its very nature, does not stay static.
Sadly, no.
We do not live our entire lives communicating in giant buckets of ambiguity.
Eventually, we have to do the work.
Right. Eventually, the future becomes the present. The project deadline that was comfortably sloshing around in November suddenly starts approaching.
The psychological distance closes.
It does. And as the time period we need to discuss gets less broad and more defined, the physical space within our visual metaphor has to change as well.
Which naturally brings us down from the wide opening.
We start moving down.
We start to feel gravity taking effect. The contents of our funnel are slipping downward, and as they drop, the walls start to slope inward.
The space is shrinking.
The vast, comfortable space at the top is disappearing. We are entering the middle of the funnel.
The transition zone.
Now, this is where I find the source material deeply intriguing, but also a bit challenging.
Oh, how so?
Well, the title of our source clearly presents a trio. It promises to explain how to use in, on-in, and at for time.
Right, the 3 core prepositions.
It is a specific set of 3 tools. However, when you look at the actual breakdown of the funnel metaphor in the text, it only explicitly maps out the top and the bottom.
That is true.
It explicitly puts in at the wide opening for weeks and months.
Yes.
And it explicitly puts at at the specific tip for precise hours.
Right.
But the word on is just kind of hanging there in the title. The source doesn't explicitly draw a line connecting on to a specific part of the shape.
Which is arguably the strongest feature of using a visual metaphor rather than a prescriptive list.
Wait, really? The fact that it leaves it out is a strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A good metaphor doesn't need to spoon-feed you every single detail.
Okay.
It establishes a physical logic that allows your brain to deduce the rest automatically. It engages your spatial reasoning.
Okay, walk me through that deduction then.
Well, if we synthesize the physical flow of the object we are visualizing, the conclusion becomes unavoidable.
We are moving along a continuum.
Exactly. We start at the vast, yawning opening at the top, which accommodates the massive volume of months. We know our final destination is the absolute razor-sharp tip at the bottom, which is reserved for exact hours.
Okay, top and bottom are locked in.
Therefore, if on-n is the remaining preposition in our sequence, it logically and inherently must occupy the narrowing middle section of the funnel.
Because it literally has nowhere else to exist.
Precisely. It represents the squeeze.
The squeeze.
Is the crucial architectural bridge between the giant bucket of IN and the laser pointer of AT.
That makes a lot of sense. And because the spatial metaphor does the heavy lifting, you immediately know what kind of time measurements belong in that middle space, even without the source explicitly listing them.
Your brain just fills in the gap.
If the top is wider than a week and the bottom is a single hour, then the middle section must contain units of time that fall between those two extremes.
Is basic deduction.
It has to be smaller than a week, but bigger than an hour. So we are talking about days and dates.
Right.
Like on Monday or on July 4th.
Correct. You narrowed it down perfectly.
But let me push back on this a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I think this is where the visualization can feel a little counterintuitive if we don't really analyze what a day actually is.
Okay.
The source implies that a day goes into this narrowing middle section. But if I think about a day like a Thursday, that is 24 hours long.
It is a chunk of time, yes.
24 hours is a pretty substantial block of time. Why doesn't a full day just stay up in the giant bucket with the weeks and months?
That is a very fair question.
What is the cognitive mechanism that forces a day down into the tighter space of ON?
That is an excellent pushback, and it gets to the heart of how human beings actually experience reality.
Okay, lay it on me.
You are looking at a day from a purely mathematical perspective. A block of 24 hours.
Right. That is how I measure it.
But human cognition does not process a day as a math equation. We process a day as the fundamental defining unit of human consciousness.
The fundamental unit. What do you mean by that?
Well, our entire biological existence is governed by the cycle of a day.
Oh, circadian rhythms and all that.
Exactly. We wake up, we experience reality, the sun goes down, and we go to sleep.
Right.
A month is a completely artificial construct.
Yeah.
It is a sprawling abstraction invented for calendars.
You can't really feel a month.
You cannot feel a month passing in a single moment. But a day is a tangible, visceral experience. It is the surface upon which we walk.
The surface upon which we walk. I really like that framing.
And returning to our concept of embodied cognition, think about the physical sensation of the word on.
On. Okay.
Unlike IN, which implies being surrounded by a vast container, On implies contact with a surface.
Right. You place a book on a table.
You stand on the floor.
Okay.
When we say an event happens on Monday, we are conceptually treating that specific day as a platform or a surface that the event rests upon.
Oh, wow. So it is much more grounded than a month.
Literally grounded, yes.
It doesn't have the infinite sloshing volume of October. A day is defined. It has clear, immediate boundaries.
Very clear boundaries.
I wake up, the day happens, I go to sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It represents a significant reduction in psychological distance.
We are getting closer to the reality of the event.
Yes. We plan our broader lives in vague months, but we execute our actual lives in the manageable chunks of days.
That is profound, actually.
The middle of the funnel visually captures this transition space perfectly.
The time period is getting tighter, the walls are closing in.
We have moved from the conceptual planning phase into a more restricted, manageable reality.
I can almost feel the friction of that narrowing time.
Friction is a great word for it.
Like when you pour liquid through a real funnel, the middle part is where the flow starts to meet resistance.
It hits the sides.
It is no longer just wildly falling. It is getting organized.
Structured.
It is moving out of the chaos of the giant bucket and being directed into a more targeted stream.
Right.
So using on for a day is acknowledging that middle stream. The deadline isn't floating in November anymore.
It is anchored.
It has been pulled down into reality. The meeting is happening on Tuesday
The commitment level increases as the spatial volume decreases.
because you have less room to hide.
Exactly. You have eliminated all the other days of the week as possibilities. You have squeezed out a significant amount of ambiguity.
But we still haven't reached absolute precision.
Not go away yet.
Because if I tell you the meeting is on Tuesday, I still haven't told you when to show up.
True.
Tuesday is a surface, but it is a wide enough surface that you could still be waiting around for hours.
Which brings us to the final, inevitable stage of the physical process.
Gravity continues its work.
The contents slip past the transitional, squeezed middle section of Owen, and the walls of the funnel close in completely.
The physical space practically disappears.
It vanishes.
The terminus of the funnel, the absolute bottom.
We have arrived.
This brings us to the final area explicitly defined by our source material, the specific tip.
The very bottom.
We arrive at the very bottom, and the source links this microscopic point to the preposition at. And it clearly states that the exact measurement of time that belongs here is precise hours.
Precise hours. If we unpack the sheer contrast between where we started and where we have ended up, the cognitive shift is dramatic.
It is night and day.
We have moved from maximum volume to zero volume,
From the bucket to a point.
from maximum ambiguity to absolute mathematical certainty.
The wide opening was massive. It allowed entire months to just hang out and slosh around.
Very forget it.
But the bottom of the funnel isn't a container at all, really.
No, it is not.
It is a coordinate. It is a single, isolated point in space and time.
There is zero tolerance for sloshing at the tip of a funnel.
Zero.
Only one single drop can pass through that microscopic exit at any given moment.
And that perfectly mirrors the linguistic reality of using precise hours.
Exactly. When you say an event happens at 3:00 p.m., you are being exact.
You are nearer.
You are leaving absolutely no room for interpretation or flexibility.
If MN is the giant bucket and ON-N is the narrowing neck of the funnel, then AT is a laser pointer.
Oh, a laser pointer. I love that.
It is a highly concentrated, piercing beam of light. You are not illuminating the whole calendar page.
No, you are not.
You are putting a tiny, intense red dot directly on the number 3 on a clock face.
A laser pointer is a very apt analogy, and it highlights how the evolution of human society has forced us to use this tip of the funnel much more frequently.
Wait, really? How so?
Think about human history before the Industrial Revolution.
Okay, going back a bit.
For thousands of years, the vast majority of human beings lived their lives entirely in the top and middle sections of the funnel.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
You planted crops in the spring, you went to the market on market day,
Right.
but you rarely, if ever, needed to coordinate an activity at 3:15 p.m.
People didn't even have watches.
Exactly. Precise hours didn't really matter until the invention of reliable mechanical clocks and, more importantly, the development of the railroad system.
Oh, wow. The railroads.
Because trains had to run on a precise schedule so they wouldn't crash into each other.
That is wild. The industrialization of society demanded the tip of the funnel.
It did. We suddenly had to coordinate complex logistics across vast distances.
The ambiguity of the giant bucket became dangerous.
dangerous and highly inefficient. We were forced to filter our chaotic, generalized plans all the way down to specific actionable points on a clock.
So the very existence of the word AT functioning in this hyper-specific way is a reflection of how our society became obsessed with precision.
It is a marker of modernity.
The tip of the funnel is a modern constraint. It represents the ultimate refinement of our plans from vague to exact.
And that is why the shape of the funnel isn't just a static diagram.
It is active.
It is a dynamic process. It visually represents the act of making a decision and forcing an event into reality.
You're moving from thought to action.
When an event is far away, it swirls around in the wide opening. We will launch the product in 2027.
Very vague.
As action is required, we force it down the funnel. We need more focus. We will launch on October 12th.
Getting closer.
And finally, when the action must occur, it hits the specific tip. We go live at 9:00 a.m.
Wow. The progression is incredibly satisfying once you see it visually.
It locks it right into your brain.
So what does this all mean for daily conversation? What does this mean for you, the listener, trying to navigate your next professional email or casual text message?
It changes everything.
It means you can entirely bypass the cognitive overload of grammar charts.
You no longer need to recite the rule. Use 8T for times on a clock.
No more rote memorization.
You just need to feel the physical sensation of the time you're trying to express.
Is the time you're thinking about vast, broad, and fuzzy? Does it feel like a giant container?
If yes, it requires the widest part of the funnel. You are in it.
Is it a specific day? Is it a surface you can conceptually stand on?
If yes, it requires the squeezed middle. You are on it.
Or is it a sharp, exact coordinate? Is it a laser pointer?
If yes, it demands the sharpest, most restrictive part of the funnel. It requires AT.
The physical properties of the mental image literally dictate the grammar for you.
It relies on intuitive spatial awareness rather than arbitrary rules.
It turns what used to be a frustrating memorization test into a simple, almost physical reflex. Wide, middle, sharp. Bucket, surface, laser pointer, enum on an AT.
By connecting the abstract architecture of English syntax to the tangible physics of the real world, you are anchoring the knowledge deeply into how your brain naturally operates.
Okay, let's recap this incredible journey down the temporal funnel so you can really lock this three-dimensional image into your mind forever.
Let's do a quick fly-through.
We started way up high at the vast, wide opening of the funnel. This is the domain of IN, the giant bucket used for broad, sprawling blocks of time, like months, years, and seasons.
The space where time has the maximum volume to slosh around without consequence.
Exactly. Then, the inevitable pull of gravity takes over. Our event slides down into the narrowing middle section.
The squeeze.
This is the logical bridge space for IN. As the time period tightens from a sprawling month down to a 24-hour cycle, we use ON for specific days and dates.
The transition from broad, distant plans to tangible, grounded realities. The surface upon which the event rests.
And finally, the funnel closes in entirely. We drop all the way down to the very bottom, arriving at the specific microscopic tip.
The terminus.
This is the realm of AT, used exclusively for exact, precise hours. The laser pointer illuminating a single coordinate on the clock.
Moving from maximum volume to zero volume.
Yeah.
Broad to precise. In to on end to AT.
The logic is just so clean and so deeply rooted in how we experience the physical world.
It is brilliant.
And understanding this matters profoundly because I can almost guarantee you tomorrow or next week, you are going to be speaking in a meeting or typing an important message, and you are going to hit that moment of paralysis again.
It happens to everyone.
You are going to freeze up, second-guessing yourself, desperately trying to summon an invisible textbook page to remember the rule for a time preposition.
But when that moment comes, you don't need to panic.
You don't need a textbook at all.
You just need to rely on the evolutionary spatial reasoning your brain already possesses.
Exactly. You just close your eyes for half a second, visualize that metal funnel, and ask yourself a very simple physical question.
How wide or how sharp is the chunk of time I am trying to describe right now?
Let the shape of the physical object give you the grammatical answer. Trust the metaphor.
It is a profound demonstration of how deeply language is intertwined with our physical perception of reality.
Trust the funnel. It really is a brilliantly effective mental model.
It really is.
But before we wrap up this deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Oh, what is that?
We have spent this entire conversation analyzing how the physical shape of a funnel perfectly maps out how English speakers categorize time.
Right.
But if this three-dimensional wide to narrow object is so flawlessly suited for understanding the invisible concept of time,
Where are you going with this?
could this exact same visual metaphor be the secret to understanding how English speakers use INA and NAT to describe physical places and locations as well?
Oh, wow. No, that is a truly compelling avenue for further exploration. Right. Does a country feel like the wide opening, while a street feels like the middle, and a specific address acts as the sharp tip?
The spatial logic certainly seems to parallel the temporal logic.
That is really something to think about.
Just something to think about the next time you find yourself navigating a map or trying to navigate the beautiful complexities of the English language.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of time.
I absolutely love that comparison. The idea that in is like a giant bucket where time can slosh around, while at is a precise laser pointer. It makes so much sense.
It really does. By using the funnel, you move from the maximum volume of months and seasons at the top, through the surface of days in the middle, down to the zero volume of a specific coordinate on the clock.
So the next time you freeze over your keyboard, don't try to recall a textbook rule. Just trust the funnel and ask yourself, is this time block a wide bucket, a grounded surface, or a sharp point?
That's it for today's episode. We hope this mental model helps you feel more professional and confident in your daily English. We'll see you in the next deep dive on Leo's Daily English.